So we're going to start with the multicam edit that we started with last time. I had you go through and do a full 3.5-minute edit of that video. Then, because I'm trying to make this a more achievable project, what I found the first semester I did this, people went through and did the full 3.5-minute video. And the few people that did a really great job, I said, how long did you spend on it? And they said, a long time. So what we're going to do is we're going to chop out the middle 2 minutes of this song. So give or take, we're going to chop out from here to about here. But when we do that, we're going to need to chop it out in such a way that you don't hear the edit. You don't realize anything has gone. How many of you have ever heard a song in a movie or a TV show where you go, oh, I know this song, but then it cuts to the chorus at a time you're not expecting, or it cuts to a different part, right? That's called a radio edit or a scope edit because we're telescoping it down. But we need to make that inaudible. So you don't know that something's happened unless you know the song. So first, we're going to go through and learn how to ripple delete a big chunk of something so that we only have a 1.5 minute long video to edit. Then we're going to go through and we're going to start adding our B-roll. So I'm going to show you a technique for adding in a bunch of clips all at once that are timed out to the beat so that you can add all those clips in very quickly. You won't have to individually set in and out points and chop out little tiny half-second chunks of video and then nudge them into place. We're going to use your sense of rhythm, hopefully you have one, to drop all of these clips in automatically and make it easy to then swap in even better clips. Once we've done that, we're going to go through and look at a few other visuals that we can add and maybe get to our first multicam visual effect. We're going to look at how to replace shots in here, and you're going to have probably 20 or 30 minutes of this class in between each one of those to practice these skills and get ahead. The main thing when we're going through these processes is that you practice. When I show you one example, do that one example so that you can make sure you understand it, because then you're going to have to repeat it outside of class 50 times. If you don't understand it though, or you're trying to just move on with other parts of the project, then you'll probably get here later at night and kind of struggle. So I don't want anybody to struggle. I want you to raise your hand and I'll come over and I will help you out. Okay, awesome. Now, so here is our process. So let's go ahead and open up our project. And then I saw Haven came in, so I'm going to add Haven back. Sweet. All right, so get those instructions open and let's go ahead and open up our project and proceed forward. So last time we brought in clips, we synchronized them, we created a multicam clip, and then we went through and we learned how to switch all of the multicam edits here. So now what we want to do is we're going to go through and delete that middle 2 minutes. Here's how I would approach it. I'm going to zoom in here. And when I'm trying to scope a song, usually I need to figure out how much do I want to cut it down? Because if I only need to lose 30 seconds or a minute, maybe I'll just delete verse 2 and chorus 2. In this case, I wanted to make it a short, achievable project that everybody could have a really great looking 1.5 minutes by putting a few hours into. So what I listen for is typically some big transition, something like a chorus or an explosion, a big old crash cymbal. So in this case, when I played through and I'm looking at those, tell me if we had a big transition in the song that happens multiple times. Does that happen multiple times in a song? It does. So what I typically do then is I'm going to go through and put my first marker in there. And by that, I mean, I'm going to set my in point. Anyone remember what it means to set the in point? Exactly. So here I'm going to play through, and right as I get to that hit, watch it. Did I nail it perfectly? Probably not, but I put it in pretty close. Go through and set your in point right at the beginning of that hit. Yes. Does it matter? Yes. Yeah. It's going to be around 55 seconds. If you look in the notes or in the instructions, you should see it's about, I think it says approximately 55 seconds. Yeah, right here. From approximately 55 seconds to approximately 3 minutes. We're going to set the in point right here, because this will be the beginning of the part we're going to delete. If we just set we can set an in point with the I key. I will set an in point, and then we'll go to the end and set the out point. Okay, once you've got your in point there around 55 seconds, let's go over towards the end. Musically, if you notice this bridge right here, I can see there's this quiet bridge section, and then it looks like a big chorus here on the outro. So I'm going to go to this bridge. They're like fighting, they're tired. Here we go. So somewhere around there, I'm going to scrub it to try to figure out where that same snare drum happens and hit O to set my out point. So that's going to set a in and out point around that middle couple minutes of your video. And Matt, I saw that you already, that's cool. That's great. All right. Okay. So now that we've got these middle couple of minutes set, and you should have that, you probably didn't nail it the first time. I've done this so many times, but even now it's been a little sloppy. But what we want to do is essentially we want to delete this big chunk and then close the gap. So it seamlessly goes from the beginning to the next bit. So there's two ways we could do this. Number one, when you make selections like this, a lot of times clips get selected. So if you're moving a mouse around, for example, it might select clips and that overrides anything else. So if I hit delete, it actually ignores the in and the out and actually will delete the selected clip. So one thing we have to do a lot in Premiere is if something is selected, we need to click in the empty space to deselect everything. So click above your tracks in the empty space to deselect so that no clips are selected. And then we could do one of two things. We can either hit the delete key and that will delete all of the stuff. And then we can select the gap and delete that. So that would be one way. Delete all the stuff in there, select the gap and delete it. Or we can do that all in one swoop with a ripple delete. So typically the delete key deletes, of course. So if we add a modifier key, option delete, will delete it, automatically move all that stuff at the end left to fill it in. So with your selection made, click in the empty space to make sure you have nothing selected and option delete, and that will ripple delete your gap. Once you've done that, throw me a thumbs up. Getting there. Cool. Go and listen to your edit and let's see mine. You tell me if mine is perfect and then I'll give you a minute to work on yours. Here it is. Not perfect. It was close. If I had been paying attention, I think we could have got it. But do you hear the two snare drums? So something needs to be tweaked. I can scrub and drag across. So that one seems okay. So I think maybe this other part, I'm going to just trim off one frame at a time, select the gap and delete it and see if that fixes it. Maybe I need to lose a frame on this side, select the gap and delete it. Pretty close. So it will need a little massaging. Everybody go check your own and then see if you can get that completely inaudible. Not bad, but I actually feel like mine needs a little bit more. This piece is a little to move all of the clips. Okay, if Hannah just asked a great question. If you're wanting to, let's say that you move all of these clips over too much and you want to select all of the clips on the right of the track, underneath your selection tool is the track select forward or track select backward. A and shift A. If you click track select forward, when you click, it will select every clip to the right. If you switch to the other one, track select backward, you can select every clip to the left. Okay, so A and shift A. Great question, Hannah. So if you move them too much, you got to grab them all and move them over, track select forward and back. Yeah, so what Hannah was just saying was if you accidentally cut off too much like this, then you can use this track select forward and backward. It's this other tool. So I could select track select forward, come here, select all of those, zoom in, and maybe give myself a little more room to play with. Try it again. Oh, it's okay. Well, yeah, I wasn't gonna, but now you know how that's what we can use that for. Like, oh shoot, instead of zooming out and selecting 1,000 clips, we can just track select forward, grab them all, and then move them. All right, once you've got yours sounding pretty good, go ahead and throw me a thumbs up. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just make sure you get to where you can, it does need to be when you turn it in, but for right now, just make sure you can comfortably get things nudged around. You can always finish it up later. We'll take another 1 minute. They do have a regular headphone jack. Yes, around in the back left side of your computer. All right. Okay, if everybody got it reasonably close, you can always go in and nudge that around. So if you're listening back to it and you can hear that edit, that is something I grade on. Can I hear the edit? Is there still like multiple things happening? But again, you can just zoom in, switch to your track select forward or backward. If you overdid it, you chopped off too much, and you can just move them over a couple of frames and continue to nudge around. The more you do that, the faster you'll get at it. Okay, so now we've got this in place. I did put here in the instructions, in your preferences, audio, make sure that play audio while scrubbing is turned on, which means as you drag this playhead, you can actually hear the audio. And that's under the Premiere settings, audio, play audio while scrubbing. So if that is turned on, then you'll be able to hear it. If that is turned off, then you will not. I like having that on, but some people, if they're not trying to listen to audio, like it off. Awesome. All right. So next up, we have done our initial edit of the song. I had you guys do the whole song in the Multicam edit just to get good practice, but we've cut out the excess. But now we need to go through and start adding in B-roll using the official music video as a general guide. Now, we're obviously, if we're only going to be a minute and a half of a 3-minute song, we can't tell all of the same stories that they did. But the file is actually in the footage you downloaded. So let's open it up and let's compare the difference here real quick of mine or what we have with just the Multicam edit. You notice when we had that Multicam camera open, there was only the one angle for the first bunch of the song. Boring. Looks like this, right? So at that point, I'm unconscious, but we need to see what else we can do. And this is, if we look at the official music video, they've got a variety of different things. They've got CGI, couple of flash frames. So we need to be able to put those all in. What do you notice about the challenge of cutting some of these together, though? Fast for these really quick. And so when we're editing a fast music video or a music video with a lot of percussive elements, that would take quite a while. If we zoom in here and we're like, okay, so I need come to my extra footage and I open this up and I like open this clip up and I'm scrolling through looking for something interesting. This would take forever to edit. And then I'd have to take this, I'd put in an in point, maybe an out point. I'd come over here, I'd make some more tracks, need to add some video tracks. I'd pop it in, I'd nudge it around. Would that take a long time? A really long time. So I'm going to show you guys, having edited 1,000 Multicam videos myself, some of the secrets to making it happen faster. Now, how many of you like to think of yourself as at least somewhat musical, or at least you have a sense of rhythm? Anyone in here? Okay. Sometimes I have people that are like, I cannot sense rhythm. When I watch their edits, it's clear that they're true. So what we want to do is we're going to use our sense of rhythm to be able to pre-make some of these shots for us. So I'm going to go and delete some of these extra markers here. I'm going to show you a trick. Here's what this trick is going to look like. Actually, I'm going to just demo it right here. Here's what it's going to look like. I'm going to take this track, deselect all of the videos. So just watch this. Don't try to do it. Just watch so you can grasp the overview of what we're doing. I'm going to make sure that none of this video clip is selected. In fact, I'm going to lock my A roll so that we don't make any changes. Then I'm going to hit play and I'm going to just hit the marker key. What's the shortcut to add a marker? M. So I'll do that kind of every time I feel like there's a good beat. So I'm just adding markers and you can see I added quite a few of them here. Okay, I already had some in here. So I'm going to go through and add markers. Yeah, Damon. To add a marker, I'm adding M. Okay, so I'll add a bunch of markers here, but let me do it really quickly. Just tapping away and listen to it. Or you could just zoom in and put them. You can even just click and drag these markers if you want them right on some of these beats. You can see that some of them I got close, some of them I might have been a little off. But here's how this is going to help us editing that initial sequence. Then I'm going to come over, open up some of these extra shots, maybe toggle some of them down so I've got these. And I'm going to go grab some random ones, maybe no instruments because I've already got plenty of them in the A roll, but maybe I'll grab a fighting shot. And to grab multiple shots, you have to hold down the command key. So I'm going to go through and grab some different boxing shots and chair shots and atmosphere. I'm just randomly selecting some because this step is not trying to nail the shots, not trying to get the exact correct shots. It's trying to get the timing and save myself a bunch of time. So I select a bunch of clips. I'm going to come back over to my project, put my playhead at the beginning, select the project window with all of those clips selected. And under the clip menu, I'm going to choose Automate to Sequence. Automate to Sequence is going to say, okay, what order do you want them in? I'll say, how about the order I picked? It says, where do you want to put them? I'm going to leave it on unnumbered markers. That's what markers are called when they're in your timeline instead of on your clip. And it'll say, and that's it. I'll say, okay. And boom, all of those clips I just selected are instantly dropped in, starting and ending at every marker. Let's see what my intro looks like now. Before it looked like this. Guy lonely dancing around on a stage. Now it looks like this. Now the shots are not the way I want them. They don't start where I want them, but do you see how very quickly now we have shots timed out pretty well correct? And then what we'll do is we're going to go through those shots, look for some where it's like, that one wasn't particularly good. Maybe I want a big boxing shot here. I'm going to select this track, load up some cool shot that I want, mark this one, mark this shot, and overwrite it. So now it starts and ends exactly where we want. I can come to this shot and go, oops, that's too similar to the one before. Mark the shot, load up a different one, and drop it in. And now it's replaced. Go to this one and say, don't like that one. I can select it, go find it, but it's starting and ending at the right place. I didn't have to trim. Now I can just go load up a different thing. Maybe this one is going to be a cool explosion or something. There we go. And drop it in. And now that we've got all that timing nailed in real quick, we can just now swap the shots very easily. Yes. So we'll walk through every one of those right now. I just wanted you to see what this process is. And does everyone see how that would be way faster than trying to manually go in and choose? So now that you see what that looks like, we're going to walk through the steps. Adriana, exactly. You can choose any clips. I like to choose a random assortment, but then because if we get our markers where we want, it'll get everything really close. And now we're just swapping clips out. Okay, let's go do that. All right, so I'm going to first come in. Did everybody already lay in markers? Okay, awesome. So I'm going to real quick, let me just go in. I'm going to open up my markers window. I got to delete all mine. So in order to do this, let's go ahead and go to our track. And I'm going to lock my video and audio one track. That way I don't actually accidentally change them. So we're just going to click on the little lock button next to layer 1 and layer 2. Then, does everybody have at least one more video track? Okay. If you don't, you can make more. I'm going to go ahead and make a couple extras. You can right click in the empty space above the tracks, choose add tracks, and I'm going to come up and maybe make myself 2 more video tracks, and I don't need any more audio tracks. So 2 video. So if you've got a couple already, you're good. You don't need to do that. Now, throw me a thumb when you're there. Good. Now I'm going to come to the sequence menu and I'm going to turn off for a second this selection follows playhead. When I turn that off, then it's not going to automatically select the clips. If I have that on, you'll notice as I move my mouse around, what happens? It's automatically selecting the clips. Does everybody see that? So I'm going to turn that off for a second and you'll see why. What I want is if I didn't have these locked or I had selection follows clips, then when I'm hitting play, it'll automatically select this and it'll put all of those markers actually on this video clip instead of up here above the timeline. We have to have them above the timeline for this to work. So I've locked that clip. I've made sure it's not selected. And now you're going to hit play and you're just going to tap that M key to wherever it feels like a beat should be. Now you can go through and you can see all these snare drums, but if you've got a good sense of rhythm, you can just hit play and boom, etc. And undo that. Go through, take a pass, and drop in markers. It's better to have maybe too many than not enough, because it's very easy to delete a clip than it is to add one in. Yes. No, I would just do it for this intro, this first 10 seconds. 10 or 15 seems, I think that's about how many I ended up with. Yeah. Because you can always, once you've got 15, 16 shots in there, it seems like that's about what it was in the official. If you're like, this is too many, you just delete one and you just stretch the other one out. It's just a quick time saver for those parts where you need a lot of shots. Yeah. Some of them are. If there is, markers are actually one of the features of Premiere that I'm least impressed with. Because right now, even, for example, if I'm like, okay, let me delete a bunch of these markers at once. As soon as you go to click on one, it takes you straight to it. A lot of times, if these tracks are not locked, like when you click on something, it just immediately, like they'll disappear. Why is that? As a thing, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But, okay. Actually, this is a better way to delete markers at least. But I have to lock this track. If that's unlocked, and I select one and I delete, now it's staying in place. We doggone something. All right, so everybody got some markers in? Okay. Don't worry if you put in too many or too few. Now go back to your project window. Shift 1 will take you to your project window. And let's just go select, use your tilde key to make it nice and big. Go to your extra footage folder with all those things and toggle a bunch of them down. Just toggle them open using the little arrow key. And for now, just go through and manually select about as many as you have markers. So I'm holding the command key down to select a variety. If you do too many, no problem. Again, it's better to have too many because you can easily delete them than it is to have too few. With thumbs up when you have 15 or so clips selected with your command key. Almost there. Good, good. All right, now come over to your timeline, and we want to make sure two things. In case we've forgotten, our source and our target patches, these two blue boxes, we want to make sure that the source patch has been moved up to the empty video layer. So make sure that we've got it turned on and up here on video layer 2. Then make sure that the target is turned on for video layer 2. So now that you've got a bunch of things selected over here, come to your timeline and turn on the source patch and move it to video layer 2. Just, we don't want to overwrite this one. It's locked, so it shouldn't happen accidentally. But now that's the blue box on the left side of the padlock. And then the one on the right is the track targeting, and we'll make sure we understand both. The source patch is what tells the clip which track to go to. So if I have the source patch, can everybody see this? Just as a refresher from survey. If the source patch is here, that's the left blue box. They should make it more visually distinguished, but they haven't. If you overwrite, that'll put it right there. If your source patch is on a higher track, it'll put it there. So whichever track it's on is where the clips will get overwritten to. You can also turn it on or turn it off, and then nothing will drop down on. So this is what tells the clips which track to go to. We'll look at what the right hand, the track targeting, does in a minute. All right, make sure that your playhead is at the very beginning of the song. Your home key on your keyboard will rewind to the beginning. Make sure you're at the beginning. And now for this trick to work, you have to make sure that the window selected is the one that has all of your clips. You have to have either your project window, or in this case, I used a bin window. So make sure that panel is highlighted. And then go to the clip menu, and you should see Automate to Sequence towards the bottom. You'll click on Automate to Sequence, and once it's there, it asks you, what order do you want to put the clips in? You can either just do it by alphabetical, basically the sort order you can say, or you can do selection. Since I randomly selected them, I'll go with selection. Placement is either sequential. Sequential just means it's going to stick the clips in and ignore all those markers you did. It's just going to put them in one after the next. Not very helpful. Or at unnumbered markers is all of the markers on your timeline. And method should just be overwrite. And it's just going to use the beginning and end of each clip. So I hit OK. And bam, it automates all of those clips I just selected directly in and gave me a new. Now, I maybe need to tweak a few of those, but it got me into a pretty good spot. If yours automated a bunch of clips to the sequence, throw me a thumbs up. Yes, Damon. If that happened, no problem. If it gave you a bunch of extra clips, you can just select and delete the ones at the end that you don't need. Let me come back and look at it here in just a second. Now let me I'll get you sorted. Let me show everybody what to do next with these. All right, so did everybody else get some clips automated in? Anyone that just not work at all? Kadeja? Okay, 1 second. Let me show everybody this, and then I'll come around while everybody's working on this part, and I'll get you guys sorted. All right, so now zoom in on those clips that you put in place. I'm recording this class, so you can use it as a tutorial. All right, so everybody look at this. So now that we've quickly laid in our clips, what do we need to do? We need to either go through and swap them for the actual clip that we want, or maybe we find that our timing was not perfect, so we need to adjust the edit points. And really, that's about the only thing. So let's look at how to do those two things really quick and easy. So first, I would come to maybe this first shot. Everybody go to their first shot. I'm going to make sure that my source patch is still on that. That's the left blue box is still selected on this. And now I'm going to go look for my cool, interesting first shot. Right now, it's somebody writing the word believer. but I saw a shot in here way down in atmosphere that was like this exploding thing. There we go, like this. Everybody go find this shot. You don't have to keep this as the first shot, but just do it with me. So this is Adobe Stock 04. Yes. Okay, let me come around. Everybody go load this clip up. I'm just going to show you how to do this and then give everybody like 8 or 9 minutes of just going through and massaging those initial shots. Okay, so watch my screen and you'll just see the process. And then I'll walk you through it step by step. So first, if I know I want to replace this shot, I just make sure my playhead is over it. And I'm going to go turn back on sequence selection follows playhead. That way it automatically selects this clip. What I want is to mark in and out points around this clip. So in order to mark whatever is under my playhead, the X marks the spot. So X will set in and out points around the clip. Then I need to go load the clip I want to replace it with into the source viewer. So that's simply double clicking the clip that you want. And now I just need to overwrite this down into here with my period key. Okay, so go through and take a minute to drop in your clips and mark them. So I like this second shot I ended up with, but that's a little like it. I don't know, it's cool, but maybe it'd be cool to have one. I'm going to juxtapose this kid with another shot. I think I've looked through all my footage here. I think young Dan shared, Delph shared, Dan fighting. Somewhere in all these, Dan share. Oh, how about right here? I'm going to switch to my icons. Dan sitting in the chair looking like the kid. I'm going to load that up. Ooh, if there was one where he's looking like the kid does. Oh, that's cool. And I'm going to just swap that. So I'm going to select here. X marks the spot. Select up here. Overwrite. Now we've got cool. That now we've established that the little kid and Dan are the same guy right off the bat. Okay, so everybody go through and try swapping your shots around, and I'm going to walk around and help people who need some help. Start with so here. So that's my shot. That message. Yes. Okay. That way. Yes. Good. First. Nice. Splash. All right, pause for just 1 second. Let me just add a little piece of clarity because several people ran into this, and then I'll let you keep working. Look at my screen real quick. Let's remind ourselves what these two blue buttons do. So you should have on video 1, it should be turned on. And let me show you why. Take video 2 and turn it off. That's the right-hand side one. That's called the targeting button. Turn that off on video 2 for a second. But I got it off just on video 2. Here's why. If I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so you can see. The targeting buttons say, should we include clips on this track for track functions? Here's what that looks like. For example, you should know by now that up and down arrow move you to the edges of clips. Yes. So up arrow goes to the previous one, down arrow goes to the next. But you notice it's skipping all of the clips on track 2 right now because that track is not targeted. If I turn on that target, now you see up and down will include every clip on that track as well. If you have it turned off, then it's okay. Maybe you only want to focus on video 1. So we can do this as we build a video up multiple layers. So that's what those are for. The left side, the source patch, tells it which track to go to from the source window, and the other says whether to include clips on that track or normal track functions. Okay, just want to make sure everybody's clear on that. Go ahead and keep working through. We can do that as long as it still looks like it's all in sync. All right. How's that process feeling? People getting the feel of it? Good. Okay, jump back up here. Let's look at a couple things that'll make this go easier for you. Couple simple little things that everybody may or may not remember, but that'll make your life easier as you're doing this. Come over when we're looking for shots that we want to swap in or B-roll, come over to your project window or your bin and use your tilde key to make the clips or make the window a lot bigger. So the tilde key, which is right above the tab key, will toggle any window in Premiere a lot bigger. So tilde is the button right above tab. When you're in a bin like this, you should notice that you're just not in the project window. When you're in the project window, if you double click on a bin or a folder, then you'll notice it actually opens up an extra window here or an extra panel. So you can quickly get to all of your different shots. When I'm trying to preview or go through a bunch of possible shots, I like having them all open here in their own little bin windows. So all you got to do is go to your project, use my extra footage, open this up, and just double click on each one of those to load up a bin so I can see them all. Then I can just click through my bins here, which is way easier to see all of my footage. In this way, I can always jump back to my project window. So if I'm in here and I need to go to the project, does anyone remember what the project window shortcut is? Shift 1. It's the very first one, exactly. But it also will cycle through. If you have a bunch of bins open, Shift 1 will actually cycle you through all of those different bins. So you can quickly just see a bunch of possible icons if you're trying to search for inspiration. The other thing, we already practiced that, Shift 1 to cycle between all your open bin windows. Now Shift / will toggle any window. The / is the key directly under delete. Shift / will toggle a window between icon view, which is best for finding the footage if you need to see it visually, or it'll toggle to icon view. That's also down here in the lower left corner. So you can click to icon view. But there's one other view we haven't talked about, and that is freeform view. Freeform view is really helpful if you want to visually go through these and pick out your best shots first. We call that doing selects. So if I'm sitting here scrolling through and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to use this one. They both look tired, and in the short version of the song, I don't need that. But you can't really rearrange things too much. You could drag them and put the shots that you don't want at the very end. So here in icon view, at least, if you didn't want something, you could move stuff you don't want to the end. Like I definitely don't need 50 of these overhead shots. But in freeform view, you can actually stack them. So you could say, oh, I love this one. I love that one. So people sometimes use this as ways of visually organizing information. I don't personally like that, but it's there in case you need it. But I do all the time switch back and forth between list view and icon view. And Shift 1 I use to cycle between all my open windows. Let's see. So we've got that in place. We've learned how to swap things in and out. We can get back to our project easily. We can switch to icon view. Let's look at how to synchronize a punch with a snare drum hit and how to massage the edit afterwards. So I'm going to find a big old snare drum hit somewhere in the song. Okay, so maybe that snare drum hit. One at about 3 seconds, maybe not quite. No, you know what? I'm going to do one here at 5 seconds. There we go. So let's go to the snare hit at 5 seconds. Actually, it's at 4 seconds and 21 frames. Everybody should have that. Boom, boom, bop, bucket, boom, bop. Throw a thumbs up when you found that snare hit. Okay. So is this an impactful? There's an old adage in editing that says edit on the action. You don't want to cut to a shot and then it's just like, what's happening? People are just standing there or there's no action happening, at least not in an action-packed thing. If we want it to feel action, we need to cut on action. So the first step in that is making sure that our edit point is happening on the action or where it feels good. So if I look at this, it looks like my edit point is actually a little bit late or a little bit early rather. It's before this snare hit. Now, every editor is going to have their own approach, but the simple thing when I want to move my edit points around, look at these two approaches. The slow way, I would come to this clip and let's say it was way off. I could click this one, trim it back, try to get it as close as possible, click this one, trim it back. You see how many steps that is. If your edit is way off and I just want to move this timing, if you hover between the two, you can either hold down your command key to get the roll tool, and then you can just roll that edit point to nice and someplace tidy right in front of this. There is also a roll tool over here. The roll tool, so you can hit the N key to switch to rolling edit if you want to do this without having to hold down command, or if you're doing a bunch of them. Personally, I never switch to this tool. I just hold the command key down because my fingers are already on it. So I never use the rolling edit tool because I always have my thumb on the command key and I can just press it down and roll.
So rhythm, lyrics, or
you can use both. You can certainly do both. And if you watch a bunch of different music videos, even watching this one, if you really pay attention to the edits of the official music video, it can be helpful because you're not always going to cut dead on a downbeat. Of course not. In fact, a lot of editors will say that they want you to cut like right on the and before the downbeat. But yes, you can absolutely do things too that are not necessarily adhered to the beat. I'll show you a thing at the end for how we could go through and really visually compare or check the original music video. Yes, Matt. The markers? Yeah, but the markers were just to get us started. Yeah, we didn't need them. So our roll tool, command clicking, will drag that around. The other one that we'll sometimes need to do, so I'm going to take this and let's go drop in a punch here instead. So I'm going to come find a punch. Shift one. Okay. I'm going to see if I can find somebody getting just rocked in the face. So I'm just scrubbing over, looking for a punch. There's a big one. Okay. And I'm going to, here's what I do. When I'm scrubbing through here, if I see that punch, boom, that's what I'm looking for. I'm going to set my endpoint right here. You can actually just hit the I key and you notice how right there, it changed the endpoint. If I come back here, endpoint, see that little blue line updating? So I'm just moving it until that punch is happening and setting my endpoint. And then if I double click it, I can see my endpoint is already set here, ready for me to X marks the spot, period, override now, boom, it gets hit right on that snare drum. So go through, find a punch, and I want you to drop it, set your endpoint right as that punch connects. I want you to drop it right on that snare hit so that when we see it, you see that person just get right on the snare. Raise your hand if you need any help, and I'll come around. When you're able to get one punch landing right on a snare hit, throw me a thumbs up. Okay, got about half the room. And you can always keep working ahead on adding other B-roll throughout the project if you finish up before everybody else. All right, once you've got at least one punch edited to the snare hit, look back at my screen for one last little tweak. Matt brought up a great question. He said, do we really want it cutting right on the snare hit and the punch happens right on the snare hit? Should we have any lead up to it? The answer is you'll do both. Sometimes it'll make sense for it to come in and you'll see more of the swing. But how could we do it this way to make it simple and then adjust? 2 quick steps. If you look at this, I'm going to zoom in just a hair here. If I were to drop this clip in, number one, and let's say I put it in and I realize that snare drum pow is happening way before his fist is actually connecting. And I go, wait a minute, I want that fist to connect right here on that snare drum. Simple enough. I just move forward until I see the punch connecting. And basically what I need to do is move this piece of video back to here, right? So if my timing's not quite right, the tool that does that is right here. It's called slip. With the slip tool, or Y, You can leave the start and end points right where they are, but watch. I can literally click here with slip, and as I drag it to the left, the two boxes up here show me what now is the first frame of this clip and the last frame. So I'm just going to drag this over here. As I drag it to the left to line that up, I've just moved this whole clip, the inside of it, without actually moving the outside. So now we're back to the thing being there. So if you like where your cuts happen, but you need the action inside of it to move, slip will let you do that. So you can easily try that. So your slip tool will let you move the clip inside of its bounds. And then if I wanted it to start earlier, like Matt said, I can simply hover over this edge, use my regular selection tool, press the command key down, and roll that edit point back a little earlier, knowing that the punch is still going to land exactly on time. Make sense? So the slip tool lets us move the content of the clip inside, and the roll tool lets us roll the edges of the clip. Now, just so you can see it, the last one would be that slide tool. And if you use the slide tool, it moves both the ins and the outs of the whole clip all at once. So you can move it and it will automatically adjust the ones on either side. That's also a handy tool when you get to more advanced editing. You just want to nudge the whole thing around. Okay, so try using the slip tool to just nudge some of your content around if it feels a little early or a little late, but you like where the cuts happen. Raise your hand if you need any help. All right, let's take a look at one little visual effect. Everybody got a feel for using some of these tools? Able to go through and keep adding? So just as an example, here is an example of a completed B-roll, and actually this also has the multicam. If you were to go through and delete all of these, that's about a standard what this project should have. The average pace, according to the instructions, should be a second or so of your cuts. That's at least 90 different clips. Some clips you can see are much shorter. If you watch the official music video, it's only a few lines where maybe he is singing something that's critical to the song that goes for 2.5 seconds. There's really no shots longer than that. So going through and adding in your B-roll is the project or is the homework for next class, and a screenshot showing that you've done it for the entire song. Cool? So about that is what that should look like. And then of course the rest are additional shots or things like that. So something to that effect. All right, let's go look at one little visual effect shot. I'm going to come back over to here and zoom in, and let's look at how these work. So you're going to edit the B-roll storyline using the official music video as a general guide. Use markers on hits and automate to sequence if you want to automate some shots like we just did. Add shots of punching, boxing, etc. They should land on snare hits. Make sure the boxing match happens, at least to some degree. And you can intersperse the other shots, the atmosphere, the stock footage, young Dan, etc. All right, so then over the next couple days, we're going to look at some visual effects and how we create some that are in the official music video. Here's how these work. At 2 seconds approximately, if you look in the official music video, you will see them use this clip or one that looks very similar, but it will look different than the one that we have. So for example, what you need to do is you're going to put only these 8 shots need to be these shots. You have total creative freedom with the rest of the multicam and all of that, but around 2 seconds, you need to be putting in this shot and you're going to do this effect. The first year I did this, I told people they could do these effects anywhere throughout the music video, but then I found it was impossible to tell where they had actually done the effects because some of the shots, it's already, color changes are already burned in, some they're not, so it's hard to tell. Yes, damn it. It's possible they're just slightly off, but if you zoom into the very beginning, my song starts within a couple frames. So it should be fairly close. Oh, then yes, I would definitely delete that empty 5 seconds, but let me come and look at it here in just a second. All right, so when I'm saying this, I'm saying that find this shot and it should be about 2 seconds in. You'll have these next couple of shots are all stacked together, for example, at about 3 seconds in. Then there's one at 22 seconds. If yours starts at 2.5 seconds, that's fine. But I just don't want these in totally different order because then it's grading them as, I didn't see them do the color replace. And you're like, oh, I did it at 90 seconds. I'm not going to notice that you did that, or I won't know that's what you did. So we're just going to use these in here. And then ultimately, like you saw in some of the example videos, we'll add a title underneath each one. So it's easy to see what you did. All right, here, let's compare. So I'm going to go to about 2 seconds, maybe right there. And maybe I'll swap out this shot. Just gonna cut this and I'm gonna swap this in with what I've done for you is made all of the effect shots footage. I separated them out to make them easier and put them in their own folder. Effect shot footage. And this says we need to use Dan Fighting 018. Dan Fighting 018. I'm going to load this clip up. And what is the difference that you see? If we look at the official music video, there it is. And here's ours. What's the difference? Yeah, we've done a color replace on here to help tie it in. So I'm going to mark this empty spot. Going to select my clip, overwrite it down in, and I've got this shot at around 2 seconds ready for color replace. Go do the same thing. Give me a thumbs up once you got that clip in there. Doesn't have to be exact. Again, we just need this clip in here. Doesn't have to be the whole thing. If it's just a second or so, just as long as we'll be able to visually see. Nice. All right. So now to apply this effect, we need to open 2 windows, our effects window and our effect controls window. Shift 5 is our effect controls. Shift 7 is our effects. Then go to your effects window, and rather than sort through a whole bunch of folders, we're just going to look for the word color and then scroll down until we find the color replace plugin. Then we can either drag and drop it onto the Dan Fighting clip, or if the Dan Fighting clip is already selected, which it looks like mine is highlighted, thus selected, I can just double click on the color replace plugin. It adds that automatically. And I even see it up here in the effect controls. There it is, color replace. You should see yours too. Shift 7 should open up your effects window. Okay, so now here's how we do this. Just watch my screen and then you can take a second and do it too. Target, replace, and similarity. It's only 3 settings. So I'm going to say target color looks like it's all of his skin color. So I'll click on the eyedropper, click on some skin, and you can see that it's trying to automatically replace any skin color that's that color or within 8 whatever units similar. Okay. I can drag this similarity up until the whole thing is selected. But you can see it's got the wrong replace color. That's blue. So I can either click on the blue and just drag it to red. And now I've got that. Or if I wanted it to definitely be like this red from these like bubbles in the background or the bokeh, I can click on the eyedropper, come and choose one of those. Problem is that's obviously a very dark red. So I still need to be able to click on this and take this little bubble from being in the dark red area and just drag it down to the bright red area. Hit OK. And I'll just increase this similarity until we've got a similar red shot. Go through and do the same. What do we have?
Yeah.
Now, once you've done that, throw me a thumbs up. Beautiful. So what if you apply this and you're like, this is cool. They use it multiple times throughout the video. I want to apply this same color replace to some other similar clips. 2 simple ways. If you know what the clips are, you can simply with this up, you can select the plugin, copy it, and then go to whatever shot you want. Maybe I was going to do it right here and select their effects controls and paste it in. So simple enough. Or if you grab the whole clip right here and you copy it, Command C, everybody go select their whole clip and copy it, and then just pick any other random shot. Maybe I'll do that to this one right here. Under the edit menu, you can paste attributes, which will let you paste multiple effects or other settings at once. Paste attributes will come up with this box that says, basically, check all the boxes for the things you want to copy and paste from one clip to the next. So if I had resized or rescaled them, I might choose motion. But right now, I just want to choose the effects. So here you could choose to paste. If you've got any effect you have on it, will show up here, and you can check and uncheck the things you want. And when you hit OK, it'll apply that directly to you. All right, so your task before next class is to finish up your B-roll. That's all that's required. We just did these couple of other things, but this is about what you need. I would say it would look more something like this, but not necessarily multiple layers. You can use multiple layers. You don't have to just use 2. So if you're going through and you're not sure if you want this clip or that clip, and you put them on 2 different layers so you can compare, that's okay. Because you might end up editing them later, but it does not have to be confined to just 2 clips. Okay. And then as we go on, we will build some of these taller stacks that you're seeing right here. All right. Once you've got that, you'll be good to go. I will upload the tutorial right here. So if you need more help outside of class, it'll be there. Otherwise, schedule a meeting with me. I'm always happy to help. Raise a hand if you need help and I'll come around. Not 1 through 8, no, just finishing the B-roll. So we haven't covered the next couple days. We'll be covering those other 7 effects. Yes. So just finishing your B-roll through the entire project. You need B-roll all the way through to bring the average shot to about 1 second or less. Yes. I have to upload it this afternoon. Yep. Thanks for asking.